then you're doing better. You are separating. Is brain allowed? It could be allowed if you have three conditions. The three conditions are, what's the first
Food from
condition?
waste.
Oichel. First condition is oichel. Oichel mitoich pseus. So these are the halachic terminology over here. Oichel mitoich. Mitoich means from. Oichel from pseus. Think out the oichel, which means food, is a term that we're using to describe desirable items. Pseus is not undesirable. Think what you desire and what you don't desire. That's condition number one. Condition number two is Samuch lachila, close to the time of eating. Samuch lachila, close to the time of eating. We went into detail. What does it mean close to the time of eating? Close doesn't mean like right before. You need time coming home from shul. Takes an hour to prepare, to set the table, to put everything takes time, cut up the salads, a bunch of stuff that has to be done to prepare for the meal. That's all called close to the time of eating. You can already do separating. Third one has to be biyad. Biyad is to be by hand. You can't use a keli, a vessel that's going to assist you in the separation. You need a vessel that's helping you to separate. You can't use that vessel. But we said that in many situations, when using a vessel, it's not helping to separate. You're allowed to scoop out soup with a ladle using a vessel because the ladle is not there to assist you in the separation of the liquid from the pieces. It's just to make it easy. You don't get dirty. You don't burn yourself. And the same with anything else they scoop out with a spoon. It's just to make it easier for you. Not necessarily. It's not there specifically to separate the things that are mixed together. It just makes it easier for you to do it. That's why you can use a knife. Use a knife to cut a mango, to peel a mango, because the knife is not there to help separate the peel from the, I mean, it is, but it's not. In other words, no, it's not there so it could help. Like, we have two things mixed together. You gotta keep them separate, right? To make sure it's gonna help to separate it. The knife is not there. You get what I'm saying? It's sounds a bit subtle, but it's not. The knife is not there to help separate to separate the two. It's helping you to peel. I mean, you could separate very well with your fingers also. They have the same type level of separation. It's going to be more work. So it's not there to help separate. That's why it's still fine. You need other conditions when you peel a mango. It's close to the time of eating. What about the food from waste? We said there's an exception because that's also in this category, because the reason why I could take the food from the waste, because that's called derech achila. That's how you eat. That's not called malacha. That's called eating. That's when you eat. That's what you do. You take what you want. When you eat a mango, that's what people do. That's how you get to the food. That's the regular way how you get to the food. You peel it. Okay, so let's go to more details. In the last class, we spoke about the fly that fell into the soup or in the drink. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. I know we talked about cleaning up, and I have a question about
Did you say cleaning up?
yeah.
Like after a game?
Yeah, but also let's say you take a dress out, like the dress example.
Right.
I don't know if we talked
I
about
mean, you go
putting
to
it back.
for your wardrobe.
Yeah.
Bunch of dresses that are packed together.
Yeah.
Because if they're loose, it's not right.
Right.
It's crammed together, regular, right? Now you take out a dress, that's called biting, you're separating.
That's fine, but putting it back.
When is it fine?
It's fine if you're gonna wear it right away and.
If you do it that morning,
And you have
not the
big
night
tent,
before.
yeah.
If you do it the night before, you can't, because it's not samach lachila, close to the time of eating, which is, again, it's not just for food, so it's the same concept, close to the time of when you're using it. So in the morning, it's fine, yeah.
But let's
Okay.
say you do that and then you don't wanna wear it. So you wanna put it, are you allowed to put it back?
Yes, because if at the time of you took it out, you were planning to use it, you did the right thing. Putting it back, you're asking?
Yeah.
Putting it back is no malacha. Malacha is separating. So in the last class, we spoke about a fly that falls into the soup. How do you get the fly out of the soup? We said that you take the bowl and you pour out the fly, you pour until the fly comes out, then you can use the soup with a drink. And the reason why it's okay, because the Alter Rebbe says that when you're pouring out the fly, you're not taking the fly from the soup, you're taking the soup from the fly. Because what's in your hand is what you're taking. Because what's in your hand is what you're taking. In other words, there's a whole other discussion over here. Usually when we talk about the Melacha B'Eid, there's no discussion, and we know what you're doing. The question is it allowed? It's not what are you doing? We know what you're doing. You're taking the good from the bad from the good. Over here, when you're pouring out the fly, there's a whole other conversation over here. What are you doing? There's an argument what you're doing. You don't even know, it's not even clear what the person is doing. Because when you're pouring out the fly, there's two ways to look at it. You're taking out the fly from the soup, you're taking the soup from the fly. Because on one hand, you're pouring out the fly, on the other hand, in your hand is the soup. So it never says in the Siddur, it says that we go according to what's in your hand. When you're pouring out the fly, you're taking the soup from the fly. That's why it's okay to do it. He's taking the good from the bad. Then it's on the kachila if you're going to be eating soon. Not if you're storing it away, putting it back into the refrigerator. You're going to fly in a pot of soup, and you want to pour out the fly, put the pot back in the refrigerator. You have an issue. You can't do that. To put it back with the fly. Oh, well, you forgot it, or make sure to use it, whatever. But it's an issue. Yeah.
Right, why can't you just take the spoon and like take some of the soup with them?
Right. So that is broader Shulchan. The Alter himself says that, and that's what everyone else says. But Alter later on changed his opinion that you should not do it. We explained in the last class because when you take a spoon with soup and a fly in it, what do you do with the spoon? You chuck it out, right? You throw the whole thing out. So everything is going to the garbage. You're not going to eat from that soup. You're not going to take out the spoon and try to blow out the fly, and then you're going to throw out the whole thing because it's disgusting. Huh?
I guess if you're eating with plastic spoon. Yeah, what if you're eating with non-plastic?
What's the difference with spoon eating?
They already have this.
I know. When you take out, right, the soup, right, the soup. Okay. When you thought I meant the spoon.
Yeah.
The soup. You take a spoon, the soup on the fly. That spoon with the fly in the soup, you're not eating that soup. The whole soup is going to the garbage. There's a fly right in there. It's so close, right? So the Alter Rebbe says you have to be strict because you can't look at it like you're taking good from good, because the whole thing is being thrown out, so it's all bad. Got it? Okay, so and you have lakshan in your soup, and you want to separate the lakshan from the soup. So let's say you just want the soup, right? You want to pour soup instead of using the ladle. You're taking the pot and you're pouring out soup, all the bowls, and you're going to be left with the lakshan because nobody wants the lakshan. They only want soup.
Lakshan is noodles?
Noodles.
I like.
Or the vegetables. Or the small piece, the vegetables, whatever small piece are in there. So you're pouring soup into every bowl, and you're left with the vegetables in the pot. So you're left with what you don't want. So you're not allowed to do that. Now, it's important to understand, yeah, is that clear? It's important to understand that when you are pouring lakshan out of the soup, out of the pot, and the pieces, whether it's the noodles, and then whatever pieces are in there are staying behind, it's only considered separating when it's actually getting to the place where it's actually mixed together. But in the beginning, you don't have the pieces. The pieces are, let's say the case is the pieces are on the bottom, and the top of the pot, it's all clear. There's no pieces there. So when you're pouring out, let's say you just want the soup, or whatever it is, whichever case it is. Okay, let's make it a simple case that would be an issue. You want the soup, you don't want the vegetables, right? So now you're pouring out soup, you don't want the vegetables. We said before that's separated because you take what you don't want. Because what that stays in your hand, you're pouring out the soup, you're left with the vegetables. You said you can't do that. But in the beginning, when you're pouring it out, the vegetables are not mixed with the soup. The vegetables are in the bottom. So in the beginning, when you're pouring out the soup, there's only soup there. It's not mixed together. So if let's say you just want soup, you don't want the vegetables. So now you're holding the pot. What's left in your hand in the pot? The vegetables, which you don't want. But when you're pouring out the soup is not mixed with vegetables yet. So when the soup is coming out from the top of the pot, there's no vegetables there. You're pouring out soup, and the soup is not mixed with the vegetables. But in your hand, you're left with a pot of soup with vegetables, which you don't want the vegetables, you just want the soup. So is that considered separating? Huh?
Wait, you're saying what?
So I'm pouring out the soup. I don't want the vegetables. But I'm pouring out, but at the top of the pot, there's no vegetables mixed together. The vegetables are on the bottom of the pot. The top of the pot, there's only soup. There's only liquid in it. So when I'm pouring out the soup, there's no vegetables mixed with the soup. So is this called separating? No, because there's no vegetables and soup mixed. There's no vegetables mixed with the soup. So this that we said, it's a problem. Whatever discussion we had before about you're pouring out the soup and you separate it with the vegetables, we said it's a problem. That's all talking about when they're mixed together, meaning that when you're pouring it out, if you're not going to be careful, the vegetables are going to come flying out. So you have to like maneuver the pot that the vegetables stay behind. So now you're separating the vegetables from the soup. But if you're pouring it out from a place, in other words, it's let's say the top of the pot where there's no vegetables, only soup. And when you're pouring out soup, there's no vegetables. If you just pour it regularly, you don't have to, maneuver the pot in any direction. There's only soup coming out. That's it, because the vegetables on the bottom. That's not called separating. Separating is only when it's mixed together and you're like, okay, actually the vegetables don't fall out, and you might put a spoon in to hold it. But putting a spoon could be a problem because you're using a keli. I'm not sure. Every time I teach this, I always have the question. I have to look it up. And I believe there's different opinions. That's why I'm myself I always have this question again and again. Could you put a spoon there to help that the vegetables should not fly out? Is this a problem? It's never clear to me. I believe there's different opinions on this. Right? Because on one hand, you can use your hand also. So it's not necessarily helping to separate. If you put your hand in, you don't want to put your hand because it's going to get dirty. Oh, so it's the soup is not really there. Sorry, the spoon is not necessarily there to help to assist in the separation. We spoke before, you can't use a vessel that's helping to separate. It's assisting in the separation of the two items that are mixed together. This is like helping you to separate. You can do the same thing with your hand, just you don't want to get it dirty. So you're really using the spoon not to get yourself dirty. So I have to look it up. He talks about this specific detail. So I believe there's room for leniency. Anyone had another question
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
about the spoon?
Yeah, because like I've like angled like the pot before. And then like you, if they do a little gum, and then,
Right, the spoon helps.
yeah.
So now, another practical situation with separating the vegetable, the pieces from the soup, something very practical to be aware of. Many times you finish with the soup and you want to put it away, but you don't want to put it to the fridge because it takes too much space, and you want to you have these plastic containers, and you start pouring into plastic containers. Sometimes, I only do it. You can put it away, put it to the freezer, let's say, or wherever you want to put it. Actually, putting to the freezer is an issue because you're freezing it. Freezing things in Shabbos is questionable. But the issue is, if you're taking the pot and you're pouring it into a bunch of different containers, how do people like to do it usually? distribute the liquid and the every plastic container should get some vegetables and soup, right? It's not fair to everything's being fair, right? So, so now you can't do that in Shabbos because you're separating. You specifically vegetables, soup, vegetable soup. So if you want to empty out the pot and put it into plastic containers, you have to use whatever comes out. It's like it's one plastic container will have a bunch of vegetables or a bunch of soup. You cannot, distribute in a way that's vegetable, exactly. You get what I'm saying? Because then you clearly separate it. That's clear prohibited. Okay. What are we talking about now? Nuts on Shabbos. Are you allowed to open nuts on Shabbos? Is that separating? To crack open nuts on Shabbos? To crack open nuts on Shabbos, is that separating?
Yeah.
Is that permitted? If you want to crack open nuts on Shabbos, is that okay? If I want to eat nuts, is that prohibited? Because I don't know. Huh? It is? When you crack open the nuts, you're picking the bad from the good. That's how you get to it. So could you peel a mango on Shabbos? Yeah, with a knife. Could you crack open nuts on Shabbos? Yes, you're going to eat. Right. However, the Alter Rebbe is strict. The Alter Rebbe says in the Siddur we should not do such a thing. The Rebbe says one should be strict and do not crack open nuts on Shabbos. And the reason is because there's a concern that you might come to do the malach of Vayda, the malach of separating. Why the malach of separating? You just said that you're allowed because you're going to be eating. The Rebbe says like this: the way people crack nuts is they crack a bunch of nuts, right? Crack, and there's a whole table full of nuts, right? Cracked shells and nuts, shells and nuts, shells and nuts. What is the likelihood that could happen? The likelihood is that if so much nuts and shells on the table, that you might move away the shells from the nuts. And that's separating between bad from the good. So the Rebbe says, might come to transgress in the Malach of Vayda. The Rebbe says it's good to be strict and not to eat nuts in Shabbos. Another issue is muktzah, because if you do that, besides separating, the shells are actually muktzah, because they're not edible. So the shells are muktzah. Cutlery and shell. Oh, we want to cutlery. Apples get dirty. Yeah.
Like now you can buy, like, that's like, you buy them without shell, so it's also the same.
No, it's without the shell, there's no problem.
Um,
Now, even with the shell, let's say if you take the nut and you go to the garbage can and you peel it over the garbage and let the shell fall right into the garbage, that shouldn't be a problem because the concern of the Alter Rebbe is not there anymore because it goes straight into the garbage. So if someone is going to be really careful with that to peel the nuts directly over the garbage can, that should also be fine. In general, when you're peeling things that are muktzah, like you're peeling an egg on Shabbos, the shells of the egg is muktzah. You're going to peel an egg, and you're going to peel where the shell is going to be on the table. The shell of the egg is muktzah. Now the whole discussion: could you move it? You can't move it. Depends. So sure, sometimes you could move it if it's bothering you, whatever. What's easier way? You take the egg, you go and stand by the garbage can, you peel the egg, shell goes straight into the garbage, and that's it. What happens if apples get dirty? Fruits, they fall, yeah.
How are the shells?
Why are shells muktzah?
No.
Because anything that is dysfunctional, what a word, anything that has no function is muktzah. Generally speaking, things that have no function become muktzah. They're not usable. Raw food, like raw potatoes and Shabbos, is muktzah because you can't cook potatoes on Shabbos. It's muktzah. Fruits that get dirty, they fall on the floor, they're dirty, that dirt stuck to it. We're not talking about the dirty and there's nothing stuck to it. You just bring it to the sink, rinse it off, no problem. If there's actually dirt stuck to it, so if you take that fruit and you put it under the faucet, you let the water wash off the dirt, you are doing the malach habayit. You are separating Just like when you peel something, when you peel it separating. So are you allowed to take a fruit that's dirty, has dirt stuck to it or whatever, and bring it to the sink and let the water wash off the dirt? Are you allowed to do that at Shabbos?
It's close to eating.
There you go. Right? Every situation of it, you always come back to this. We said you're allowed to take off the peel. That's how you get to the food. So getting off that's how you get off the dirt, right? So it's close to the time of eating. If you're not going to eat now, we just put it back into the refrigerator for later, then you can't. You could still rinse it. Now, if it's not, there's no dirt stuck to it, just fell on the floor, you can rinse it. No matter if you want to get the dirt that's stuck off to wash it off, then you're doing the malacha later, and that's only allowed if you're going to eat it. Cutlery. Cutlery. We set the table, the cutlery, Shabbos morning. Many times people like to set the table when they go to show, so we come back to the show, they don't have so much work, it makes it easier. Okay? Any problems setting the table with cutlery Shabbos morning when you go to show? No problem setting the table with cutlery. Question is, where are you getting the cutlery from? So last night you washed the dishes, let's say, and all the cutlery is sitting on the drain board, all the forks and spoons are all mixed together. Right? So you pick up a pack of forks and spoons and knives, all mixed together, and you start separating and you start setting the table Shabbos morning before you go to show. Is that allowed? Because very good, you're not allowed, because before show, you're separating. It's not so much, it's not close to the time of eating. You can only do that when you come back from show. Yeah.
If they're like in a divider, like they aren't pre-washed, you wash them, dry them, whatever, before Shabbos, they're in that little drawer organizer,
No problem.
that's fine.
You open up the drawer, the separate is no problem. Now, there's something you could do at night when if you wash. I'm not telling you to wash dishes at night. Don't get it with me wrong. Saying if, let's say, you're washing the dishes the night before, and you're washing all the cutlery, there's something you could do that you won't have this problem. What do you do? When you wash dishes and you pick up a fork, it's random. There's no separating when you pick up a fork from the sink to wash it. It's random, whatever comes. You pick up a fork, you wash it. Once the fork is in your hand, put it wherever you want. And you put the fork here. I pick up a spoon, washing a spoon. I want to put this. That's not separating, even though it is, but you're not. Because when you pick it up, you don't care which one you wash first. What's the difference? Whatever comes to my hand. Once it's in my hand, I can put it wherever I want. I'm not separating. So now you can have all the cutlery separated the night before, and you're not even separating. And then the next morning you can set the table without a problem. Now, there's interesting advice from Moshe Feinstein to avoid the problem of the cutlery being mixed together. Not to not avoid the problem, to overpass the problem when the cutlery is mixed together. He says what you could do is you can take the cutlery, it's all mixed together. You can't separate it. Let's say you want to set the table Shabbos morning. You can't, it's all mixed together. He says like this. Take the cutlery, you ready for this? You look at your hand, and you throw it over the table. You throw it doesn't mean you have to throw overhand, it can be underhand also, okay? You throw it, you have it all, it's all in one hand. Now, what's the idea of separating? Definition of separating is, if it's all, let me explain. Okay, this is books, obviously. Let's say it's all mixed together. I'm separating. I separate it. If I take all this in my hand, I'm not going to throw it. If I take this all in my hand, right? I take all of it together and I throw it, and it all separates. Did I separate? I did separate, but the definition of separating, he says, is that's called separate. Take a hand and I take it out. If I hold it all together and I'm throwing all of it together, I'm not distinguishing anything. I'm not taking this out of that. It's all the same boat. It's all flying. All of it is So now, he says, if you throw it, means obviously if you have a table, it has to be practical. It might not be practical. But if you have the space for it, and you throw it away when it all scatters, he says that's okay. Got it?
That's
Yeah.
also to do the hack of the.
That is what?
All if you wanna do it not before you. Like.
Correct. If you want to do it before you go to shul.
Oh,
Once you come, right, once you come back from shul, you could, no problem, because it's samach lachila. Yeah. Right, yeah.
So once you've scattered them, then you can go around the table and let's say you have 15 guests, whatever, you grab a fork, put it by a table.
Right,
they're
because it's not
scattered.
mixed together. Once something gets scattered, a mixture is when it's perceived as one unit, it's like all together. When it's scattered, it's not mixed anymore. By the way, when you have svarim mixed together on the table, it could be an issue. A bunch of svarim all over the place, and now you want to take all the svarim and put each one in its place, it could become an issue. It's very tricky, because if it's separate, it's not mixed, so not always it's clear. There are many situations where it's not crystal clear, is it called separating? We mentioned that on Tenebra says, let's see, you have big and small. I gave the example, you have apples and cherries. Let's say apples and cherries, apples and strawberries, big and small. Is this called a bunch of them mixed together? Is it called a mixture? Is this called separating? Now Tenebra says, it's clear. It's not clear. We don't know. We don't know if it's separating or not. Maybe it is. And therefore he says you need to be strict.
This is an example I've seen a number of times. Let's say you're careful, you have a big table, a lot of svarim on the table, they're all spread out, so it's not a mixture. A toddler comes by or a child and makes them into two nice neat piles or three or whatever. It's a mixture now. How can you deal with that? Like you want to set the table, you want to use that table, you don't want to put them back on the bookshelf, like what's the best way to
Mix a
approach?
pile of a bunch of different svarim.
Yeah,
That's called a mixture.
yeah,
To take that pile and now start putting each one in its place is called separating.
yeah. So can you just turn it and just put them all back in how they're set?
That's for sure, okay.
Okay, but what if you really
Right.
don't want to do that? Like it'll ruin your Shabbos.
Because all the svarim are going to be in a different place.
Yes.
Offhand, I don't know what else to say.
Okay.
The best of my knowledge, it's not allowed. No. I don't know of any leniency.
So you know when plastic silverware like comes all in like one container? Like there's no
Plastics.
dividers in it, like if you have plastic silverware and it like they sometimes come in bags, like the spoons are lined up and then the forks are lined up and then the knives are lined up. Would that be considered separating to take it
I
out?
started saying plastics. I didn't get the first-
Plastic silverware.
plastic silverware.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
So sometimes
Plastic
like you
cutlery.
get, yeah, plastic cutlery.
yeah.
If you, like, sometimes you get like a multi-pack with a couple spoons and a couple forks and a couple knives. If you were to
In
use,
separate plate together.
like it comes in like one bag.
Oh, when you go to the takeout place, they get a little plastic thing with a fork and a knife in there.
No, like some people buy it for like young dip, like all silver, like it comes in like a multi-pack, like my mom gets it at the grocery store.
It's like, you said silver? It's like,
It's cutlery, sorry.
but it's a better quality. So that's why they put a bunch,
No, it's just plastic,
okay.
but it's forks, spoons and knives mixed together. in
How
one.
many? See, it has to do with the amount also plays a role over here.
Like
And
it's
just-
a multi-pack, like 20.
It's a bunch of forks, a bunch of knives, a bunch of spoons,
Yeah.
all together.
Yes,
And they're all mixed or they're all separate?
like they're lined up, but they're not like separate.
So you have forks, spoons, knives next to each other.
Yeah,
It's a little tricky because when you let's say you get a platter with cold cuts or whatever, and you have a bunch of different, roasted, fried, whatever, next to each other, it's not mixed together, it's not stuck together, but they're next to each other. That could be considered a mixture, but it's not a typical mixture, and therefore, if let's go to the extreme situation. You get a platter with different types of cold cuts, two types. They're right next to each other. They're close to each other. Is this called a mixture? No, it's only two. Now, in a regular mixture, okay, obviously this is muktzah, but let's say I have nickels and dimes mixed together. It's only two items. It's mixed together. It's called a mixture. But when the type of mixture is because they're next to each other, then you only have two next to each other. It's not viewed as a mixture. So I can't take one. It's called, but if you have many, it is. Now you have three, forks, spoons, knives. It's not, these things are not clear. Maybe first of all, maybe if I would see it, I would have a better idea. But even then, not necessarily. So I don't know what to say. But again, you're always allowed samach l'achila. If it's close to the time of eating, there's no issue. Yeah. Another question there?
I have.
Yeah.
I think this is what Shane is talking about, but there's no divider in between them. It's just knives, forks,
Okay.
spoons, forks, no divider in the middle.
Where am I looking at?
This picture,
Middle one?
yeah. There's.
Right there.
Oh,
Just went off.
right. Oh, it's an Amazon link, that's all.
Yeah, I know. The middle one?
Like,
Oh. Look, they're all separate. 100 spoons, 100 knives, 100 forks.
but typically there's not a divider in between them, or a plastic bag separating them. Like,
They're
if you
all
shook
next
the
to each
box,
other.
if you shook the
That-
box, they
that's
would
what
hit,
you
like,
meant?
it's like,
This is what you meant?
That's not what I meant, like sometimes they come in bags, but like also like sometimes if you get
They're
those,
all
like they
separate.
get mixed together.
Which one is separate? Forks, spoons, knives, and different kind. You meant
Oh,
something
there's a
else,
bag.
probably.
They come in like if you get like a
Bag.
smaller thing, it just comes in like a plastic bag.
Right, so. She meant something else, but this is very clear that it's separate. I would have to see it, then I could give you a better idea.
Here, bring it. Show them.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the paper goods store right now.
Any other questions?
You're like this.
Okay, so now,
she has a
Um,
picture.
another picture? Oh. 1 second, it's only forks and spoons. And where are the knives? No knives.
I don't know, the package said there's knives on it.
Yeah, we better, it doesn't, it's not perceived as a mixture. We look at it, it doesn't look like a mixture. It's only two items, and even the third one. You barely see the knives, maybe the knives are somewhere else in the bag, maybe just a few knives. When you look at it now, it doesn't look like a mixture. But it's distinguishable, forks, spoons.
But
That's
then
what
if
you
you start
look-
taking stuff out and it gets mixed up, then it's a mixture.
It gets mixed up, yeah. Now, another another type of braiding, which is clearly prohibited, even if it's close to the time of eating. Then is, we talk about the apples get dirty and you want to put it under the water. We said you're allowed, if it's close to the time of eating, you could put it under the water, get the dirt off. What about if you take all the apples and just put it into a bowl of water? Close to the time of eating. You do that. You put it into water, sitting in the water, the dirt will come off. You do that, close to the stomach like feeling, close to the time of eating.
What is name in the end?
Hmm?
In the end, this is,
This one,
yeah,
beyond by hand,
yeah, but what is name?
that you can only separate with your hand. You can't use a vessel, a keli, that's going to help you to separate. Like, let's say a peeler. You can't use a peeler. That helps to separate, even though we said you could use it for apple because the peels are edible. But a peel is an example of a keli that helps to separate. The bad, you're good. Got it? Right, so now you're putting the apples, dirty apples, dirt stuck to it, into water, into keli, the soap, the dirt should come off. And it's so much, it's close to the time of eating. Is that okay?
No, not like.
Okay, everyone following this? Is that okay?
Yeah. Because theoretically, if you put it in the water and then you like took it out, wouldn't you?
How
they,
long
like,
are you
eat it?
putting it in the water?
But like, the separation.
We
is from-
The answer was said, but not everyone heard.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, one of the conditions has to be by hand.
God, you should have like a quiz.
But yeah,
Oh, and the water.
it-
Yeah, you
the
see-
water, the
Huh?
vessel.
If it's so.
if it's soup, no, we're talking about now, if you have fruits that are dirty, have dirt stuck to it, and you're putting it into a candy with water. By sitting in the water, it separates the dirt, gets separated from the fruits. So that's not allowed, because you're using a candy. It's by sitting in this candy, in this vessel, in this bowl, in this cup, that the dirt is separating from the fruits. So it's clearly you're missing one of the conditions, so that's not allowed. Even if it's close to the time of eating, it doesn't work. Putting it under the faucet, yes, close to the time of eating.
So what, I feel like the dirt's really stuck on there, the water ain't gonna do it. And then
Okay.
if you put it in, it's like sort of soaking, but then you put your hand
So,
in and
so
you're.
you're saying in the candy it's gonna work better, right? But you're not allowed to do it, no, no,
But isn't that,
So.
you use your
isn't
hands,
that,
so.
isn't water or Kaylee like a faucet then? In the case of like putting it under the faucet
Is the faucet is
with
the
the
candy,
water. I'm just saying like water, and you're using your hands to like rinse off the dirt
so that's okay, you can use your hand,
with the water though, the water's.
so using the water, using water with your hand to rub it off, what's the problem? Doing
Well,
it by hand.
what's the difference, I guess, okay, I guess. like,
You're not using a
in the
king.
bowl,
You're not using a vessel.
Yeah.
You can't use a vessel to help you separate. You're not using the water's coming out of the faucet, so what? The vessel is not there to help you, the vessel's not doing anything for you. Get it? Understand?
So it's about the food,
Yeah, the fruit, the
Okay.
fruit that is dirty inside the can.
okay,
You asked about soup something?
no, like, yeah,
You understand?
yeah.
Okay, we'll stop here. It's shown tomorrow.
What's the good sound?
Rivka!
Yeah, right.
And Shira! Rivka!
Thank you. Huh? Yeah, I should have moved on, but. Thank you for your patience.
Very welcome.
What's the good sound? They're probably good for it, so. Right, okay. This is where we can review. Thank you. Yeah, that's fine. Are you think your favorite cup? Hi, this is my favorite gift.
Mommy now.
Okay, so this
Well, how do you
is,
feel like-
you could fill it out,
But
but
wait,
wait, somebody is not. No, this is the week, this is,
You tell them what you learned.
Like for each class.
You could write something that you learned.